Hey, this is Pastor Dave Ferguson right here at Crosswalk Chattanooga, welcoming you to the first episode in our new series, Beautiful Upset. We're going to be taking a look at Mark chapter 8 and the confession we don't understand as Jesus asks this: Who do you say that I am?
Well, good morning, Crosswalk. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Maybe someone will be watching this or listening online. Welcome to you as well. You are a part of our family. We are glad that you're here. If this is your full-time home, or maybe this is your first time here or an occasional time here, was speaking with a friend as he walked in today and he said, I only get to come every other week. Well, we can be home even if that's all we get to come. We are glad you're here, and if this is your first time, welcome home. We're glad that you're here. And to the Sanders family, and a lot of our young people have gone off to our Crosswalk Kids programming, but to Emma, thank you for the privilege of spending time together and having experienced that baptism. How awesome is that? Great way to start the beautiful upset. Today, we launch into a series in the book of Mark as we trace the steps, the sayings, the acts of Jesus through the second half of his time on earth, leading to Easter through the book of Mark. It's a story of a king whose throne is a cross. It's a story of a Messiah who wins by, from all vantage points, seems like he's losing. It's a story about how God turned everything upside down to make things right again. So I don't know what you came here for, but as Jesus invites you here, I need to warn you. He can be upsetting. So today, we dip into Mark chapter 8, and the confession we don't understand. I don't know if you've ever said something, realized later I didn't know what I was talking about. Hopefully I got away with it. I was pretending. I was using language, I was using words, I was talking about ideas. I don't know if you've ever stepped up and had a really intense conversation with somebody only to find out later they were an expert in the subject field. The beautiful upset and the confession we don't understand. In Mark 8, it is the hinge point. Up till now, Jesus has been impressive. From here forward, he's increasingly unsettling. Sometimes I think we have fallen in love with Mark 1 through 7 Jesus, and are hesitant to embrace the rest of his story. I don't know what you think, what the biggest question has been in your life. It could be different for different ones of us. Somebody may have asked this question, others may have said yes to it, or maybe no. You know what I'm asking if I were to turn to somebody and say, well, did you pop the question? It's the question. Will you marry me? Maybe it's a question like, will you accept this job offer? In the middle of a moment where your life is at a fork in the road. There are questions that are dangerous to ask. Hey, are you pregnant? There are questions that are dangerous to be asked of, right? So, what do you think? Do you notice anything? My standard response, oh, I notice everything. And I'm a bit overwhelmed, honey. How about the most important questions in the most difficult moments you've ever experienced? Do you want to talk about it? Or from someone you know for sure you can count on, who asks you, can I help you with that? What are the biggest questions? Or when your relationship is torn, struggling, and it feels like there will never be a way back, and then someone asks you this: will you please forgive me? What are the big questions? I'm going to suggest that today we're going to consider the biggest question in Mark chapter 8. Now, what's been going on so far, again, Jesus has been impressive. And maybe especially if you decided to link yourself to him, maybe it's why you'd come into a room like this. Maybe it's how we stand and sing. Maybe it's what we pray about. Jesus has fed 4,000 people plus on a hillside. He has argued with the people who are our enemies, our political opponents. He's thrown down. And then he heals in multiple stages. He heals a blind man. It's everything we would hope for. And the disciples are following Jesus. They are leaving the countryside of Israel, and they are approaching Caesarea Philippi, which you may not be familiar with what that even means or is. It's actually now leaving Israel and entering into the borders of Roman territory. In fact, the name was changed to Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea, if you try to spell that, you could be wrong, because it comes from the word Caesar, in which you almost always get the A and the E mixed up. Caesar, Ria, Philippi. The Roman territory, all about control and rule, and pledging your allegiance to Caesar. And Jesus bursts out of what scholars call the messianic secret. What's this about? Well, oddly, Jesus, as he has been healing, as he's been performing miracles, as he has been speaking in ways that they will later say, no one talks like this. This guy, amazing. And the momentum is building, and people are wondering, would he be king? Surely this would be unbelievable. Can you imagine going to war knowing you've got somebody, you've got your general who can kind of do a whoo-hoo, and everybody's healed again? Can you imagine the impact on the enemy? Where there is a field of felled soldiers, moaning or dead, and Jesus walks through, and as he walks, they just start springing up, popping up, wiping off their swords, turning toward the enemy. I would think that would be a bit frightening. This guy. But along the way, Jesus has been doing something, and Mark is specific about this in ways the other Gospels aren't. He casts out demons and tells them, shh, don't tell anyone I did this. He heals people and then says, don't talk, think about that. I know you were lame. Don't tell anybody what happened. Sure, you were blind. Just say, when you return home. Not sure how this is supposed to work, but Jesus has been keeping a lid on who he is until this moment. It's the fulcrum of the teeter-totter, and things are about to swing toward Jesus being the Messiah. Not just a prophet, not just a teacher or a rabbi, not just a miracle worker. Up to now, Jesus has not admitted that he is the Messiah, and no one has called him that. And then we hit Caesarea Philippi, right? All right, here we go. Ready? Mark chapter 8, verse 27. Jesus and his disciples left Galilee. They went up to the villages near Caesarea Philippi, and as they were walking along, Jesus asks them, "Who do people say I am?" We've been doing this for a while now. You've left everything. I can see it in your eyes. The momentum has been building. There's been chatter. I've overheard who you think people are saying I am, but let's talk about it. Who do people say that I am? Well, they replied, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, others say you are one of the other prophets. You know, some suggest you're a prophet or a teacher. Some say you're a guy who's been killed and came back to life. Others say you are the prophet of prophets, the leader of all leaders, and Moses, who is believed to have gone to heaven and came back. This is not nothing. This is big stuff. Some are wondering if you could be the one that will change everything. But all of this is about the stuff Jesus did out there. It's easy. I wonder if there's anyone here who's doing it right now. Not rejecting Jesus as long as we can keep him an intellectual idea. Let's study about Jesus. Let's figure out what the texts say. Let's understand some logic. I wonder, what did you come here for? Did you come here for a prophet? You're confused about what to do and you'd love somebody who would tell you. Did you come here for a teacher? Because there are arguments swirling around and you want to know the right answer. Did you come here for a miracle worker? This one's harder. Did you come here to have your cancer healed? Did you come here to have your finances fixed? Or did you come here to be unsettled, upset, rocked? Tough question. All right, so that's who they say I am. But then he asks them, but who do you say I am? I want to suggest to you that every moment of your life boils down to your answer to this question. It is the most important question available to a human being. Who do you say Jesus is? I caution you, you can use the right word and have the wrong heart. Peter replies, I believe you are the Messiah. This is the first time it's been said. We use that language, we throw it around, Messiah, whatever. Oh, let's unpack it. I believe you are the one that was foretold from the Garden of Eden. I believe you are the one who is connected somehow in a mysterious way that I cannot understand to the creation of all things. I believe you are the one who spoke from a burning bush to Moses and read out the 10 Commandments. I believe you are the one who crossed the Jordan ahead of his people, splitting the water. I believe you are the one whose hands knocked down walls in Jericho, and I believe you are the one who deserves our allegiance. I believe you are the king. That's what Messiah means. I believe you are the rightful king of this planet. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Now, Peter may not have been fully theologically sound, but he knew some stuff about the history of that language. He would understand this is not a small little, this is not like CEO of our little movement. In some way, he knows he is saying, I believe you are one who is beyond my comprehension. What'd Jesus do? Shh. It's okay. Let's calm that down. This is a side note. Christians sometimes behave as if it is God's call on our lives to always say everything we think. If it's true, I better make sure you're hearing it now. How about now? How about now? How about now? How about you're going to hell? How about now? How about now? Isn't it wild that God would shush the most important truth known to man? Because timing, according to God, timing matters. We could squat there and just spend our time on that. But Jesus urges us on. You are the Messiah. Major shift. Peter is now saying, you are not just a gifted teacher. You are not just a prophet God chose to use. You are not just a person who somehow is uniquely tapped in to how to pull out the goodness of God and it onto somebody's leg. You're not just the best of us, the best follower of God. You're the best of God. That's what he's saying. Peter gets it right. Or does he? You know, it's possible to use the right words and have no idea what you're talking about. I was a young preacher preaching my heart out in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. You know it well. Was doing my best, laid it out, and I am done. Wish I had a mic I could drop. Behind me, this is a good old-fashioned church. Not even all that old-fashioned, but behind me sat an elder and a deacon that I was always deeply concerned were falling asleep without my attention. But that didn't happen this particular day. We come off the platform and one of the elders comes over to me and grasps, you know that grasping of the hand, okay, something's gonna happen here before we let go. And with tears in his eyes, he said, that was superfluous. Some of you don't know what that word means. What it means is that was completely unnecessary. No, in a way that is unwanted. It had the word super embedded in it, so I think he felt good about it and just went with it. You can use a word that fits the vocabulary, that is the proper sentence structure, and yet is all wrong. Peter says, you're the Messiah, and Jesus knows he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because there has been a cultural build for what it means to be the King of Kings. What we're signing up for if we're a follower of as I bow low, as I shout Hosanna, I am pledging allegiance to my agenda. I don't know what you came here for. Jesus is about to flip some stuff over. I don't need to know your political affiliation to know he wants to flip it over. There's a Christianity about today that says, hey, if we know anything about God, it's that we know he's our best tool to accomplish our agenda. Jesus continues on because he knows Peter doesn't understand. He just said superfluous and thought he meant great, and he meant unwanted somehow accidentally. He said Messiah, but he didn't mean the Messiah as Jesus is the Messiah. And he says, look, terrible things are going to happen to me. Good job pointing out that I am the Messiah. Yes, I will be the lead sufferer. And for the first time, Jesus reveals how his story is going to go. It's not Mark 1 through 7. It's Mark 8 and on. It's Mark 15, and that's preceded by chapter 4. I know it won't surprise you, but preceded by chapter 14. We'll get there. But today he says, look, the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things, be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of the religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later, he would rise from the dead. He's talking about himself in the third person now. I don't know if that gives it more. But the Messiah is a sufferer. It's as if Jesus wants to say, you may, years down the road through the Easter season at Crosswalk, think that God made the best of a bad situation. And I'm telling you, that's wrong. He purposely had that situation occur. Jesus didn't just pull some amazing miracle out of the hat. He went to the cross on purpose. For the Bible will say, he was the lamb slain before anybody took a knife to him. Before we could string him up, he set plans to be the Messiah, the one who would suffer, because there's this crazy thing that the God of the universe, the King of Kings, he's not like any king you know. For he gives away his power. He takes on your disaster. He lays down his life so that you might be saved. And if you think it's only during the disaster of humanity and sin on earth that he is this kind of king, guess what? Revelation says, because I'm saving you to come with me, and I'm going to give you my throne. How many kings do you know that that's what they do? Look, kings, presidents and senators, city comptrollers, fathers of their families, who do you know who assembles power so that they can suffer for you and give it away? It is an upside down kingdom this God has, or maybe we have turned things wrong. Peter, okay, look, this is so funny. I don't know if you've ever had your child instruct you on something that they just cannot understand, and it's like, okay, sweetie, yeah. Okay, go on. Go ahead. Explain. Well, as he talked about this openly with his disciples, Jesus, let me do you a favor. I think you missed, I don't know which day of school actually, but there's something you're not getting. You can't be talking like this, God. We have some standards here. There's a way this is all supposed to. First of all, people are not going to keep following you. if you explain to people that Jesus is not just their lucky charm, magic rabbit's foot, Amazon Prime prayer God, Jesus, if you don't heal their cancer, they're not going to keep coming. If they don't get the job and make as much money as they were hoping, they're not going to keep coming. You can't talk like this, Jesus. And Jesus, in a moment, says something pretty strong. He turns and he looks at his disciples, because Peter's trying to be, polite about it. Come here, hey, Jesus. And Jesus goes, hey, everybody. So, by the way, I know you were thinking it. How about you get behind me, Satan? The tempter. Anyone who would push out this idea that Jesus is primarily a tool of our earthly success, Jesus sees as a temptation, not an ally. You're seeing things merely through a human point of view, not from God's. This is the problem for God. It's his problem with me in my prayer time. It's his problem with you as you drive in your car, is that inevitably you see from a human point of view. I don't know how you would not. And Jesus repeatedly invites you, painstakingly, graciously, patiently, I invite you to consider something from my point of view. Look, you have an idea of how all of this is supposed to go, and it's about nations and kingdoms and churches. And it's not right. For I have come to upset what you thought and turn it back right side up. So here's the thing. During this week, I've been up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've shared this with some of you because I'm writing a series guide. And I'm going to I hate telling anybody anything ahead of time. I want you to just experience it in the moment. So don't tell anybody about this. But in June, we're going to launch a series called Broken Kingdoms. And it's an exploration of the Old Testament kings. Saul, only a few of them. Solomon, Ahab, Hezekiah, and Josiah. Chapter 1 starts with the people's request, give us a king. And it's possible that that's what we came in here expressing. Give us a king. Rarely when we say that do we mean King Jesus. Because here's what happened. As I'm studying this, and now I'm talking about this weekend and studying this week, so things get kind of fused in my head a little bit. So going back to 1 Samuel chapter 8, this happens. Give us a king. And God immediately says, give them what they asked for, but tell them what's going to happen. Warn them. So Samuel's words, reflecting God's words, this is how a king will reign over you. And he goes on to describe, they will take your sons, conscript your sons to war, take your daughters to be their maids. They will steal your best lands, but won't call it stealing. They will tax your belongings. By the end of it, he says, you will be enslaved. To whatever power you think you're pledging allegiance, if it's human, you will be enslaved. This is what's crazy, because I've often read that and thought, okay, he's telling us, you go with King Saul, and this is what Saul's going to be like. And he is, but I was kind of personalizing it to Saul, because Saul is a disaster. Or maybe we're talking about King Solomon, who ends up pretty much agnostic, maybe even an atheist, for a time. Or all sorts of other horrors that happen. And as we explored last fall, the best of them, King David, is like, yeah, he pretty much does this stuff. And it dawns on me this week as I'm studying that as God warns the people, this is how a king will rule over you. He's not saying this is how Saul will rule over you. He's not saying this is how Solomon or Ahab will rule over you. He's not saying this is how Caesar will rule over you. He's saying this is how every single person you could pick out as the best of the best, this is how a human being will rule over you. They'll be nice in moments. They will have their favorites. They could even sacrifice themselves in their best of days. But one way or the other, they will begin to accumulate power to themselves and serve themselves. And they will not end up being a person who leverages everything they have for the good of others, maybe even especially, as Jesus will say, the least of these. But that's my kingdom, God says. Give us a king, every single human king. And here's the thing, because we'll think about it. Yeah, I don't like that person who's in power. But there is some room you walk into that you're the king of. Even if just for a moment. Because your children don't have the power to fully rebel yet. Because you're the charge nurse. Because for one reason or another, you've been invited into a room to speak up. You walk into a room and you struggle with being a king and fully pulling power to yourself and losing track of the kingdom of heaven. Jesus will say it this way. And this is a moment that he calls out to anyone who is near. And we don't know how many that would be. We just know that earlier in that chapter he fed thousands. Hey, understand this. You might as well have said, hey, right here as we stand today in Mark chapter 8, everyone, a shift is happening. But see, I'm saying yes, I'm the Messiah. I am the King of Kings. And the biggest question you will ever face is the question, who do you say I am? But be careful, because just singing praise songs and showing up for church, you might be using the word superfluous the wrong way. Because in my kingdom, Jesus says, we love our enemies as ourselves. You don't know what that looks like? Okay. You love your enemies like Jesus loved you. You want to know what it is to be in this kingdom? It's a call to step out of line right as you step up to the counter and go to the back so others go first. You want to know what my kingdom is like? You take up a cross and you sacrifice whatever you have accumulated. You want to know what my kingdom is like? It is upsetting. It is disruptive. It is more characterized by suffering than acclaim. This isn't the kingdom you may have thought you came to. This is the most important question. It's the question Emma has been considering. It's the question Jesus poses to you right now. As we open the pages of Scripture, we're not attempting to amass correct answers. We're trying to understand how to respond when the king is in the room. But if you're looking the wrong way for the wrong thing, you might miss him. Because the king will tell you, I am the son of suffering. That should melt your heart. Because he's not talking about just any suffering. He's talking about your suffering. That he wraps himself in what I've done. That he gives himself away. That he, right now, is reaching for you. Our Father, forgive us for the moments we've set out for Crosswalk like we would to try to go to the club. Thank you that it feels good to be here. Thank you that we are welcomed and that we can belong. Thank you for good coffee and people who care deeply about our children and moving music with words that crack open our hearts. Thank you for the Bible opened and your word explored. But Lord God, may we set aside our agendas, our frameworks, even the frameworks of what we expect from a king, from a Messiah, from God, to listen to you, to watch you. Right now, Lord, I proclaim that I don't only want to be saved by the King, I want to follow the King. So give me strength to walk with you through the suffering.
Thank you for joining us for this teaching. We hope you'll come back and bring a friend. Be sure and like, subscribe, or share, and we'll see you again for our next teaching.